Hello everybody, my name is Kamon and welcome to another Genshin TCG video, and today I'm gonna be rating all of the new cards coming in version 6.0 or Luna 1 or whatever you want to call it, tier list style, and also going over the tier list that I did for last patch and seeing how wrong I was. This is gonna go up a few hours after Asia has had access to the patch and right about the time Europe gets access to it. So by the time this comes out, this might already be very much outdated. There's some cards that we still don't know exactly how they work, and this is just like not my first impression tier list, but like after I've sat on it for a little bit. Like I'm recording this a day before the patch, so this is just like after I've gathered my thoughts, not quite first impression, but haven't had my hands on it, just like last time. But anyway, let's get started with the characters, which I don't know why I've put them last. They should definitely be first. I'm gonna first start with probably the most promising one, which is the Lord of Eroded Primal Fire. So this is just a good card. A lot of people are debating whether or not like the burst or the passive is good enough, but like a lot of people are digging too deep into this card when in reality it's just like you play it with Chaska, and if you hit a bullet, because it's not entering your hand, it doesn't infuse, it just stays as animal, it's gonna deal 1 extra damage after your skill and then swirl. So it's a total of 6 damage without the passive buffs. So it's just when you hit the bullet, it's a 6 damage skill. That's all you need from the character. There's definitely gonna be ways to build around the burst or the passive, but like nobody really cares, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's mostly just the skill sometimes hits Chaska bullets, and that's really, 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 really good. That's it. So you're gonna be playing the Lord of Primal Fire with Chaska, always, but the third is up to question. The reason why I can't put it like as like a double S, triple S kind of thing, where it's like guaranteed gonna be one of the best things, is because I'm not sure what the third is. A lot of people are high on Whale. However, Whale is notoriously not actually that good with this card outside of like the original Con Whale. Like nowadays you would just rather tune than discard. And a lot people do think that you should be doing like skills on Lord and then tuning the cards in your hand, because like the skills and the bursts from Lord discard from the deck, so your hand doesn't really matter. However, like, are we really just pressing skill and burst all game? There's no way we're playing for that. There's no way we're just tuning our entire hand. We definitely have to play some action cards. And like, the second you start playing action cards, if you lean into the tune version, like if you lean into the tuning synergy, if you generate as many cards as possible, you would just rather have a different character, like I was gonna say a Lila, but like a Ganyu, a Lila, any cryo character, so that you can, instead of generating cards, you would rather draw cards, get some cryo bullets. The way WoW is typically played right now, you would get more health and more damage on the burst by just tuning cards, and you would get more of a threat inherently by freezing opponents with a quick swap than you would from just dealing a little bit more damage. Not to say that dealing a little bit more damage is bad. I definitely do think that there's a version of Lord of Primal Fire and WoW that is more aggressive, because while you're on the Lord, and bullets enter your hand, they are going to infuse with Pyro. So your skills are going to be dealing 6 when they discard an animal bullet, but if they do enter your hand, after you're done with the Lord of Primal Fire, you can go on Whale and use the skill to vaporize the pyro that is currently on the opponents that is left over from the Lord, and then apply more pyro to do another vaporize later. So like you just get just a ton of vaporizes. Whale can do like anywhere between 4 to 7 damage depending on how many cards you've discarded or tuned. That's about it in my opinion. Like there's no reason to go harder on Whale when like you could just play a more efficient Whale game plan. Like you could go harder. and like that's the reason why it's played, because you can go harder. Like right now, there's no decks, there's no whale decks that are seeing played by like actually using a bunch of skills early. Now, granted, this one is a much bigger improvement, but I just don't see it as like a whale deck. Your other options are Apep and Serpent, but I personally prefer Serpent, but honestly, either of the three could work. Either way, you're playing this with Chaska and you're gonna see results. Next up, Mizuki. I'm gonna do Mizuki, and I think... Do I make an F tier? No card in this game is unplayable. To me, the F tier is like literally unplayable. Never play this card. You have reasons to play her, obviously. In fact, I would put her in like C maybe, because she still works with like swirl stuff. Her talent can be a nice damage boost. Her extra application on the end phase can be nice when it works. It's not gonna work very often. And the burst can be a lot of value. It's probably not gonna be most of the time, but it's like she has a lot of things going for her that when they work, she's a decent card on the level of like a Jianyun or a Lanyan, and could be like an upgrade in certain situations. But those situations so rarely come up that like she's just so awkward that I don't think you're ever playing her over one of those two in a cookie deck. I don't think, like, if you're doing a double animal swirl deck, I don't think you're necessarily doing that with Mizuki. Like, it's weird. Like, she has so much that could go for her, like so much that could help her, that just doesn't seem to work. Like her burst giving you foods, but like they can't be played out for synergy, so the only real synergy you have is like drawing them out with Yumka or with NRE or with Mao, and it's like, that's decent, that's good, that's definitely synergy, but it's like, it's much worse than if they were able to be played, and even if they were able to be played, I don't think she would be that good. So I mean, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm hoping you can actually play them out, but I highly doubt it. Either way, I think she's like playable if you want to play her, because an animal character that gives you multiple animal applications on both her skill and her burst is never going to be bad. An animal character that can heal and do a bunch of applications, never going to be bad. But it's just like, Jianyun exists, so why would you play her? You could argue she's unplayable. And like, if we're looking at this from like a purely meta perspective, I do think she's like D. I'm never gonna say F for any of these cards, but like, she's just like the third, maybe fourth best option in like cookie decks, or like she's just like the fourth best slot in the space that you would want to play her in. It's very disappointing, but it's just what it is. What it is. Then we have Yan San. I was gonna call her Lan Yan accidentally, but Yan San is, I would say, also S, but with a caveat. Also, this looks really funny. The discrepancy is hilarious to me. But like, Yan San is really interesting in the sense that like, she has a burst that is worse than Bennett's, because like, if Bennett dies, the burst still lasts, it's still there, and it lasts for duration instead of usages, whereas here you have usages that have to be maintained through a condition, and if she dies, that condition is just gone. However, when you do fulfill the condition, it is practically infinite, so you don't need to do it again, and if you can, and because, and when you are able to maintain it through like prepare skills or swapping a bunch, you're never gonna run out, and you don't need more than one stack, or more than, well, the 3 stacks that you get at the baseline. So you could do something like Electro Resonance. A lot of people, for some reason, think like that's just bad, but like, what would you? Would you rather do a normal attack to get the extra 2 damage now? Or would you rather get the extra 2 damage on a character you want to be buffed later? I would take the 2 damage later, especially because it gets the ball rolling faster, and like the Electro Resonance can help out another character. One interaction that has been pointed out to me relatively recently, I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Is Venti and also Kazuha. Venti is interesting because she has a quick swap. I was thinking about her mainly through like the burst angle, but there is the skill quick swap angle as well. So she works really good with animal characters, especially ones that want to swap around a bunch. Obviously, I've thought about like Venti Albedo before, but not just like raw Venti. And I think raw Venti is really interesting. I think like doing, especially with Venti talent, doing a Yansan skill, swapping to Venti, using his talent, swapping back to her for free, and then doing a normal attack at a discount, really compelling. However, I don't know if that's like actually better than other options that you would be playing that slot. Like if you're looking to do a bunch of swirls and swap around, do you really want Yansan? Like with Kazuha maybe you do, right? Like buffing your 2 damage instances by 2 is pretty good, as we've previously seen Kazuha get buffed by 1 and it still work, right? Like Kazuha with a sword is very deadly, so imagine Kazuha with 2 swords essentially. And like obviously you can run like Moon Piercer and Sapwood Blade, go really hard on the cost reduction and the bounces. You know, like you have options. Do I think that's gonna be the best way to play her? Right now, probably. However, I think she's more so Varisa in the like Varisa waiting room, because we know Varisa is gonna come relatively soon. There's no way she won't, because Yansan just came out. We have all of the prepare skill support. She's definitely coming soon. And if Varisa has a good burst, Electro Resonance is gonna be like the best card in the game on these two, because you're just like skill on Yansan, Electro Resonance, burst, go on Verisa, do a skill, then burst on her, assuming her burst is gonna be decent, and like that's just good. You know, like that can be just pretty good, because we can pretty easily assume that she either has prepare skills or a bunch of swapping, or maybe even both. She probably has buffs through her burst, or like a big damage hit. I don't know exactly which burst they're gonna pick. Is it gonna be the mini burst or the big burst? I don't know how they're gonna do it exactly, but either way, I think that with Verisa, she is the best character here. Like I think as long as Verisa doesn't completely suck, Yansan is the best character of the three. But so far, she's just decent. She's with lore. In fact, I think I should make another role that I call Verisa waiting room. And why did I swap this one to pink? I think she is the best character here, but just not yet. SS. Why am I making so many typos? Like, I think as soon as Verisa comes out, she's gonna be so good. She's gonna be so good. Like, I can already tell. Right now, she's just like S, but like I'm gonna have to rank her this high. Anyway, off to action cards. I'm gonna start with the one weapon, which is bad. Because Linny doesn't have 11 HP. If he gets 11 HP, this is good. Because we already have, previously, like a year ago, we played Hyper Magic with Seahorse, Ajdaha, Linny. And like that deck can basically make you, or like basically let you end the round after your opponent, or like start comboing off on Linny after your opponent is done. Like you can stay on Ajdaha, do like talent, do talent again, skill once, and the opponent has probably ended the round about that point, or at least they can't hurt you anymore. So you can go on Linny, use this, and use all of the extra dice that you've gotten throughout the round to like make use of the skill, or like the prop arrow plus the skill, and just a bunch of like jet nonsense and gilded nonsense. Like, if there's any character who can utilize this, it's probably Linny, but he hurts himself with the prop arrow, so currently he's out of the question. As soon as he gets 11 HP, this can be a consideration. For everybody else, I don't think this matters at all. So I guess it's also D tier. Now that I think about it more, it's D tier for the current at the current moment. I should probably start ranking them just like by themselves. Actually, like I should probably not put her in Varisa waiting room, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Anyway, up to the artifacts, Noblesse. Currently, we don't know how it works. We suspect it's going to be just one instance of damage. However, it has a once per round, and we're not sure if that applies like a whole round buff once that can't stack, or if it's just a buff that you get once. Like you get the buff, you can stack the buff, but you can do it you can apply the buff multiple times per round, but the buff is only once itself. The buff only does 1 damage. We don't know which one it is currently because we haven't been able to test the card. But I'm gonna assume it's trash either way, because the only character that could really take advantage of the +1 damage is like either Sayu, who you don't want to burst on a character before her, or like Kazuha, also you don't want to burst before him. Maybe Yansan can change that, but not really. Cube and the Valen with Bennett, but like your damage is already good enough. You don't need a little bit more. Like, I don't think this changes your breakpoints or anything. It might. If it works if it works the good way, it might change something. I doubt it, but like it might. And then there's Clorend, who's like the one character where like you could, with minimal effort, burst before you go on her with like Scorching Loremaster, but then like you get that only for 1 round, and you're probably not going to do much on her. Like you're going to get 3 or 4 extra damage from this, but that's not really worth it. That's just like 1 extra skill on Clorend. That's just like a normal attack and a half. It's not great. Even if it is the version the preferred version, it's still not good. The other artifacts are in the same boat. I'm gonna go over them. Actually, I'm not even gonna go over them one by one. This one is like obviously bad. This one costs 2 and gives you 2 damage. Heavy Strike gives you 2 damage for 1 and has not seen play forever. Soup gives you 2 damage for 1. Yes, it's RNG, but like look at other 2 damage for 2. Tandoori Roast Chicken can buff multiple characters in the same round, and it has been played this patch in that way, meaning that like at a baseline you get this by just playing a food. And when the food works even better, like when you do multiple different character skills with that buff, it's double the value. Like obviously this can go on for long. Like this can play out over multiple rounds. You equip this on round 1 and you burn twice each round, or like you burn once and then the core hits. Like the Burning Flame. It can over the long game be like 6 or 8 damage. But no, it's never happening. It's just not happening. The zero cost version is gonna give you half the damage for literally infinitely more value, because it costs 0. Zero is like infinitely more than 1 is infinitely more than 0. So like you get the point. You have a free version of this. There's no reason in playing the 2 cost one. Now the Bond of Life one is really interesting, because one of the advantages of the zero cost version is that it also gives your opponent Bond of Life, so it's really nice for Arlecchino. So if you get more Bond of Life on the more expensive version, you get more on yourself and more on your opponent. You might never need to skill again on Arlecchino, or like you might need to rarely skill, and like that would be really good. Instead, they decided to apply it to the whole team, not to the whole board, not to the opponent's team, to the whole team, yours only, not the opponent's characters, and give you a discount on it, which practically makes it a worse tenacity of the millilith for every single Bond of Life character. Or like a worse Marsh, say, for Sijuan or something. Like it's or worse veterans. Like either way, it's bad. It's bad. You're never gonna play this. Like it sucks that all of these cards are never gonna see play pretty much. But at least these four are looking promising. I'm gonna start off with the worst one, which is Footnotes. This just gives you a toy guard on both your side and your opponent's side for 0. This can be nice in like freeze decks, like aggressive freeze decks, or like even slower freeze decks as well. Just like a free 3 damage summon essentially if your opponent ends on a frozen character. It's not terrible. It's not good. It's not great, but it's not terrible. The reason you would use this though is this card. Blessing from M, which when you discard it, which like consumes all usages from a summon and discards it. For each usage consumed, it gives you dice up to 2, random basic ones, and if it has more than 3, it heals your most damaged character by 2. So if you have 2 usages, it gives you 2 dice, and if you have 3, it gives you 2 dice and 2 health for 0. Toy guards just so happen to be at 2 usages, so you can play this for 0, play this for 0, and that's 2 extra dice for literally nothing. Like technically it costs you cards in hand, and it's pretty inconsistent. Like you're not gonna reliably see this, and it's gonna be summoning stuff for your opponent. It's just 1 damage, but it's still something. Either way, like I think if you're ever gonna run this, it's probably gonna be with this. However, this on its own is a really promising card. You can use it in Oceanid, because Oceanid gives you a 3 damage or a 3 usage summon that just deals 1 damage, and you're okay with losing that because you can just resummon it next round, and you probably want to do that anyway. And then, like, I'm down to give up the 1 damage summon for 2 dice and 2 health, specifically in Oceanid decks that kind of like the healing. But even more so, I would say nowadays, like the dice. You could also run this in like Wolfia, where Wolf has a 2 usage summon. You could get rid of that before reapplying it with the skill again, now that the skill is more spammable. Either way, great card. I think like this is basically, for the decks that it does work in, is Board Princess. Like yes, it does give you random basic dice instead of Omni, but like, who cares? It's dice. You're gonna find a way to spend dice. There's so many cards throughout the history of the game that have given you random dice and you found a way to use them. Like Clorend sees play with Light of Foliar Incision that gives you 2 random dice per round. It's essentially this effect, except it costs 3. Yeah, it also gives you a damage buff, don't get me wrong, that's also useful, and it can go over multiple rounds, but like, you get the idea. As long as your deck doesn't hate normal attacking, you like extra dice. Or like even if it does hate normal attacking, you're probably gonna find a card in your hand to spend dice on. This is just good. This is just like even if it's not Omni dice, dice are good. If you really need if you can get easy access to dice, you're just gonna find something to use it on. You're gonna build your deck in a way where you can use it. Like the issue of a lot of decks isn't that they don't have things to spend the dice on, it's that they have a limited amount of it. So getting more is just really good. Like if you can do this for a minimal cost, done. Like if you can just plug and play into like Oceanid and it plays out in a way where it doesn't cost you too much, done. You're just doing that. So like I'm contemplating it, putting it higher, but for now it's just gonna be A. Then we have Hell Dragon, which for each support card discarded gains an extra usage, up to 5, and for each summon discarded gains an extra damage, up to 5. The 5 is a bonus. So it starts at 1-1, 1 usage, 1 damage, and it can go up to 6-6. It can even go higher with Similanka cards, but you're not playing this with Similanka cards. And as you can see where I'm hovering, it's S tier. I've seen a lot of people debating on whether or not this is going to see play, and it's like, yes. Are we crazy? Yes. Yes, it's going to see play. Like, once again, just like Blessing from M, where it's like, you get 2 dice for free in basically any decks where you're okay with spending that, or we're okay with spending back that summon, or not spending back, but we're okay with just destroying that summon and resummoning it, which is kind of like spending it back. But like in decks that can make easy use of this, you're just playing it. There's no reason not to. Same with this. Decks that can stack its damage, no reason not to play it. And you would very happily change to a couple of support cards that can get rid of themselves, like Liben or Chang the Ninth. Or if you have comfortable skills, like if you have good skills and good bursts, you might even go the full jet route. Because obviously, more usages, more good. One notable deck that doesn't have to give up literally anything to support this card is Burning. Because Burning can, say you're doing like Linny plus Kinich, you're gonna have 1 summon disappear at the end of the round from Linny. You're gonna have 1 during the round from the Burning from Emily, and then you're gonna have 1 at the end of the round. Alternatively, instead of Kinich, you could do something like Baiju, who has a summon that could disappear. Do I advise that? Probably not. Am I gonna play that? Absolutely. You have options to for summons to play in Pyro and Dendro, on top of like obviously the Emily synergy, and the play that I just laid out with Linny and Kinich, that's just like 3 procs round 1. It's probably gonna be like 2 more procs round 2 at the very least. Even if your opponent avoids burning all game, you still can get a couple of stacks just off of like Linny and some burning here and there. Like they can't fully avoid the burning, or at least like not unless they run a bunch of cleanses. If they run a bunch of cleanses, you just lose anyway. But in the cases where you're up against like 90% of the decks, in other words, decks that don't have cleanses, this just deals 6 damage on round 2. It just does. Like I've seen a lot of people be like, I don't know if you can activate this early enough, and it's like, yeah, you can. Like, there's what do you mean? What, the whole thing of that Emily does is like a billion summons. You activate this for no reason. Like, you don't need to change your deck in any way or change your game plan in any way to accommodate for this. And then you have 2 dice deal 6. That's it. That's all you do. Like, you can build more towards it, you can give it more usages, or you can have ways to like immediately use it, like Mavuka's 2-cost bike or like Surfing Buddy, but it's like, are we really passing up on 2 dice for at least 6 damage in a deck that can activate that as early as round 2? Like, it can stack it up as soon as it can fully stack it as soon as round 2, because remember, the summons that you do throughout the round are going to go off before this. So if you do a Linny skill the second round, or you do like a Baiju skill, or whatever your choice of characters are, if you do like a bunch of burnings, they're going to disappear before this does, or before this goes off. So they're going to be stacking it as the summons are going off. At the end of the round, you're going to be dealing some Pyro, some Dendro, you're going to be hitting your opponents, the summons are going to be disappearing and stacking this. And as long as this goes last, you're consistently going to be dealing either 5 or 6 damage as soon as round 2. And like, if you have 1 or 2 extra usages, that's, let's assume 4 damage. Let's assume you don't even get to the 5 or 6. Let's assume 4. 4 damage twice, 1 on round 2, 1 on round 3. For 2? Are you complaining about that? No. And Burning is not the only deck that can do this. Oceanid, another one. Oceanid just got reverted. and that's pretty good. Notably, Oceanate is a card that's played with Fischl, and if you like Fischl skill round 1, I don't recommend it, but it's like if you do Oceanate 5 cost, Fischl skill somehow both round 1, they're gonna run out by the end of round 2. I would more so recommend you play them on round 2 so that they run out on round 3, but like either way you can stack this up to like 3-4 damage, and if you're like ramping with Liben, it's gonna have like 2 or 3 usages, and it's like, of course you're doing 2 cost like 8 damage, of course you are, why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? It's like, we have so many cards that are played for damage buffs that are much worse than this, right? Like Tandoori is seeing play right now. Obviously Tandoori is immediate, but it's like Tandoori is seeing play right now, giving you up to 6 damage for like the same cost. And people are calling that good and not this. I don't understand. Like, what? Obviously you have, like, as I said, Tandoori is immediate, but so can this be with like Surfing Buddy. Like, they go in like wildly different decks, but it's like when you can support Tandoori Roast Chicken, it's just one of the best cards in the game. When you can support this, it's also one of the best cards in the game. It's also 2 for 6 damage. It's at the end of the round, yes. Sometimes that can be a detriment, but it's 2 dice for 6 damage without any extra usages. I feel like I'm going insane because there's a lot of people arguing that like, are you really gonna play Emily Burning for this? And it's like, no, you're gonna play Emily Burning and this is just gonna happen to be in it. Like, it helps with one of your worst matchups. It helps with like slower matchups that can typically survive your damage output and outgrind you. This gives you a higher ceiling without necessarily hurting your floor that much. Same with like Wolfia or Oceanate. These are decks that can just kind of plug in this card, especially since I mentioned the Wolfia can probably plug in this as well. It's just a pretty good combo. Like, I'm not saying this is like definitely gonna go in everything, but it's like, as soon as we find one deck that has a bunch of summons that expire quickly, you're putting this card in there and it's gonna do a lot of work. I don't get why we're evaluating a card based on if the current decks are currently good. Like, okay, there's a lot of cards that are typically good that are not seeing play right now just because the metagame just doesn't happen to favor them right now. Does that mean we need to buff every single one? No. Does that mean they're bad cards? No. This is a good card as soon as you have a deck for it. And like, the metagame may be bad for that deck, but the card itself doesn't. But that doesn't mean the card itself sucks. The card itself is gonna see play at some point and is gonna be one of the most important cards of a deck, like relatively soon, within 3 patches at least. And we're left with one more card, which I see a lot of people are very down on. I disagree. I disagree. I disagree so much. This is another card where it's like, when it works, it's the best card in the game. You would rather play nothing else. If you could have like half your deck be this card, you would. When it works. When it doesn't, it sucks. But why are you playing cards when they don't work? Notably, this is another case of like, the deck is bad, the card is good. Like, Mew, for example, is an old deck that ran 3 weapons plus Wagner to tutor them out, plus like 6 artifacts and Timaeus to tutor them out, and it's like, pretty regularly on round 2 after you ramp in Mew, you would have 2 weapons and 2 artifacts in your hand, and this in that case becomes Pot of Greed. It just becomes Pot of Greed. Also, I didn't mention the actual effect of this card. It is draw 2, and for 2 cost, draw 2, and for if you have 2 or more weapons in your hand, get 1 Omni dice. If you have 2 or more artifacts in your hand, get 1 Omni dice. So if you have 2 or more weapons in your hand and 2 or more artifacts, it pays back for itself. And because it costs unaligned and gives you Omni dice, it basically like is free, gets you an extra card because it draws 2, and dice fixes you. This is our Pot of Greed. Like straight up. Now obviously the reason why Pot of Greed is so good in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is because because the cards have no cost. So any card that you get is gonna be able to be used immediately, basically. This is kind of the same case, even though we have dice, because this would see play in decks that have a lot of weapons and reduce them in cost, and have a lot of artifacts that are either cheap or reduced in cost. Think not just Mew, the example that I gave earlier, but also Yunjin. Yunjin runs 4 weapons, plus 2 Wagner. That is essentially, effectively, 6 weapons out of 30 cards. That's a 1 in 5 chance you see one of them. So all I'm saying is, if you see 10 cards, statistically speaking, you're likely to see 2 weapons. Like when 6 of your cards are either weapons, when you have 4 weapons and 2 cards that draw them, that is effectively 6 weapons. And when you have, when you draw 10 cards throughout a game, that happens to be, statistically speaking, 2 weapons on average. However, that is not exactly how it's going to work out all the time. Sometimes you get 2 Wagners and you don't want to play out both of them, and so this sucks then. But then you also maybe won't have enough artifacts. But a lot of Yunjin lists currently run 4 to 6, and you're very happy running 6 plus Boar Princess to accommodate this. I feel like after you ramp with Seahorse plus Leo Resonance plus Liben and stuff like that, if your hand has 10 cards, you're pretty likely to have 2 weapons and 2 artifacts in it. And in that case, instead of having 10 cards, you have 11. Obviously you need to play out a card first, you need to empty out your hand a little bit, but you're going to be doing that. You're going to be playing out the cards. You're going to be tuning cards, actually, to get your hand empty for Yunjin. And so honestly, if anything, the dice fixing can be kind of a detriment here. It's nice, but it's guess what? You could also spend Omni Dice on this. The Omni Dice that you get from Liben or from Leo Resonance, you could just spend them on this if you really need to tune away as many cards as possible, and you're afraid that you may not have enough non-geo dice or non-usable, or if you're afraid that you're not gonna have enough dice to tune, you can just spend Omni Dice on this. Either way, when this works, it's the best card in the game. It's just literally free, it dice fixes you, and draws you an extra card. There is no reason not to play this when it works. Now, is it going to work in every deck? No. There's a lot of decks that don't want this. For example, Clorend has 3 weapons plus 2 Wagner, but she also only has 2 artifacts. Could you run more than that? Could you maybe put in a Golden Troop or a Heart? Maybe, but I don't think that's what you're going to be doing. I think this is more so just going to be for decks that are kind of like Yunjin or hyper magic decks or just magic decks in general. Anything that has a bunch of weapons and a bunch of artifacts immediately slots this card in, because there is no reason not to. If you're running that many weapons and that many artifacts, it's likely because they give you extra dice, it's likely because you can discount them, and if you're running a deck with that many discounts and cheap cards and extra dice, you want more of it. You just want more of it. Everything can essentially turn into 1 extra dice in that kind of deck. If we had this back when Mew was one of the playable magic decks, maybe not the best one, but one of the decent options, you would have played it in every single deck as a 2-of. Every single Mew deck would have ran this as a 2-of. It's just such a good card when it works. Now, obviously, it might not be in any of the best decks next patch. However, that is not how we should be evaluating cards. I am evaluating these cards as just how they work on their own. This card, on its own, when you fulfill the conditions, is better than Pot of Greed. Arguably. Maybe not, but you get the vision. Yan San, by herself is decent, and that's why I think I should put her in just S. But it's with Varisa she's gonna be busted, so I can't do that. But it's this card is 2 dice deal 6 as soon as you can enable it, As soon as you have a reason to be playing a deck that can enable this, you're playing this card for sure. Like as soon as Emily Burning is good, you're playing this. You're always playing this in it. There's no reason not to run 2 copies of this card in Emily Burning, because it's 2 dice, deal 6 for like no cost. It's just we're playing the game the way you intend to anyway. Cards like these, where it's like as soon as they find a home, there's no reason not to play them. They're just good. Same with like Fruits of Training, a card that like did not immediately see play, but like people started playing like Candace and Crab and started playing like these fish and chips lists and like gilded lists that just do as many skills as possible, and suddenly Fruits of Training was basically an extra dice, maybe 2, and that's just really good. As soon as you can play Fruits of Training, you have no reason not to, basically. These 2 are another case of that. As soon as you can play these 2 cards, you have no reason not to. Anyway, going back, I think this is it for this patch's tier list. These are all useless except maybe Aqua. Aqua you can probably cook something with. Like I'm not gonna discount Aqua. Aqua is like eventually probably gonna find a use case. Like just Ancient Courtyard fully reduces it. It gives you 2 damage on each hit. If you have a bow character that can do multiple hits or that can easily get cost reductions or extra dice, you're happy with this. Like you just play Ajnaha, you like swap stall or like talent stall, and just eventually swap to your bow character. You equip this. They have to be at just 10 HP. They don't even have to have any extra, because if your opponent has ended the round and they can't damage you, you just sit on that character with 11 HP. You get 2 extra damage. Is that gonna happen anytime soon? I doubt it. But as soon as it does, this is like an amazing card. So I can't like completely discount it. These 2 are cards that I can't completely discount because like this on its own is not great. It's usable, but not great. It's mainly usable because it's free, but it's like in the cases where you can use it, you have no reason not to. Again, it's one of those cards again, but it's like it's lower down on the list, where it's like, is there really ever going to be a list that wants to actually use the effect of the card, or is it just for blessing from M? I feel like it's just for blessing of M, in which case like you're probably not running this. You probably have better ways to support this card. Either way, I think this is about it for the list. I'm torn on Yan-san. Actually, you know what? I have an idea. Let's just put a second Yan-san in the list. Let's just do this. Triple S. Like as soon as Verisa comes out, you know they're gonna be so good together. You know they're gonna be so good together. Like it's not even a discussion. You know what I mean? Like I just feel it in my bones that she's gonna be so extremely good with Verisa. Assuming Verisa doesn't suck. I guess Verisa waiting room. Let's just put in Copium. Because we still don't know what Verisa is gonna do exactly, but I'm just hopeful. Anyway, back to the previous patch, because I still need to go over this. I did say that at the end of every patch, I'm gonna like go back to the previous tier list and see how well I did, and I'm just now realizing this is basically Verisa waiting room. There's basically every patch there's one card that I hype up that one day it's gonna be busted. That is a funny trend. But anyway, I think my tier list is mostly fair, except some things are like a tier below. Yumka and Harvest Time are a tier below. I think you always run at least one Harvest Time with Yumka. A lot of people don't seem to agree. I think you have to. I think it's a must. Like in any case where the game goes on for longer, this card, just like even as a one-off with Yumka, wins you the game by itself. Or at least it's gonna win you like a decent amount of games. It's not like an automatic win, but like it really helps out in longer games or like in slower matchups. Then we have Hazel, who I also think is... Actually, everything's a tier lower, except for these two. Maybe. No, I think this is also a tier lower. Yeah, I think this is more what the list is like. I think I was about correct. A lot of things are a little bit weaker than I anticipated, and it's probably going to be the case with this as well. It's probably going to be more like this. You know what I mean? But it's like, I don't think so. Like, I think these are just such good cards that it's like, I just can't see myself calling them like A tier, or in this case B tier. Like, when they work, like there's... If I can enable this in every single deck, I would be running 10 copies of this if I could. If I could literally, I would literally go out of my way to make half my deck this card if I could reliably fulfill its condition. Because it's just literally free cards. It costs, when you fulfill the condition, it costs you nothing. And a lot of people might, and like some people might argue that like, oh, but it costs you deck slots to actually fulfill the condition. But there are decks out there that naturally want to run a lot of weapons and a lot of artifacts. As soon as those are good, it doesn't actually cost you deck slots in those. It doesn't cost you hand space because it draws you extra cards. It doesn't cost you dice because it even fixes them. Like, all you have to do is not completely brick. And if you completely brick in the weapon and artifact deck, if you find very few weapons and artifacts in the weapon and artifact deck, you're just hopeless anyway, so who cares? Now, obviously, there's some weapon and artifact decks like Chlorend, but like you get the idea. Cards like these, I just think you can't rate low. It was a similar situation here where it's like, you just can't rate Yumka, Harvest Time, and Forest Blessing that low, because they're literally like infinite value. It's the same with the Lord and like with why is it not adding copium to my dictionary? Come on. But it's the same as like a Lord, Whale, Apep, stuff like that, where it's just like, at a certain point, you just kind of automatically win the game if your opponent doesn't also have something like this. Like, if you have Yumka Harvest Time or Whale Forest Blessing, it just kind of wins the game. Against like a typical mid-range deck or a typical aggro deck. Like, if it reaches round 4, round 5, and you have like this combo of cards or this plus Whale, you just win the game. Chances are you already were winning the game anyway, but like, you get what I mean. So like, these are cards I just couldn't rate lower, you know what I mean? But it's like, I kinda can. I don't think... In my initial review, I said Yumka I don't see a home for Yumka. I don't think it goes into everything. We're gonna need to find a specific deck for it, and we still haven't kind of found that deck. It's still kind of dubious where Yumka would go, and obviously it's getting buffs for that reason. But it's like, Yumka's not a terrible card. It's just not like an S tier card, not yet at least. Maybe after the buffs it is. But anyway, I think I was a little bit off on last patch, and I think I'm probably going to be very off on this one. But either way, I think I'm kind of satisfied with this. The only things I would really maybe change is like bumping up Mizuki tier. Like, maybe someday we find like a very specific setup for her. But no, I think this is just it. I think this is the list. Yeah, this looks fine. Yeah, I feel good about this. Anyway, go tell me how wrong I am in the comments, because this is gonna go up after everybody's already played with the cards. So yeah, like, subscribe, comment, do all of those. Especially tell me how wrong I am, as is the usual. But anyway, yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.